Yo, Chris! You happen to work for Jarvis, right? Is that you, Parker? It's been a very long time, right? The last time you and I saw each other was maybe 5 years ago at that class reunion? Yo, answer the dang question for me. You happen to work for the company Jarvis now, right? That's right. I started to work for Jarvis around 3 years ago when I changed over to this company. As of right now, I'm working in the sales department. I've worked with Jarvis in their sales department before plenty of times, but I never once noticed that you were there with them. Ah, I see. You're working for Cadillac's commercial affairs team now, right? I happen to just become the manager for all of our work with Cadillac recently. Oh? You're the one in charge now? This all happened for me so fast, with the promotion and such. But the last manager ended up leaving his job for a few reasons that I'm not aware of. I'm sure that you'd recognize that manager if you saw him, since I'm sure you ran into him a couple of times then. Yeah, probably. Well, I can see that you're doing alright for yourself now then. And that's where you're working now. Well, I'm glad that we were both able to catch up. See ya! Ah, right. See you again sometime. Parker? You have some time to chat with me? Huh? When I'm over at Cadillac trying to deal with some important work, do you mind not putting me in headlocks all the time? Or coming up behind me and hitting me in the back? Yo, Chris. You need to start calling me Mr. Parker from now on. I'm the one who has a position above your own now. Don't you dare think you can call me by my name without adding some form of formality to it, you lowlife. What are you talking about? Jarvis and Cadillac don't have that kind of connection with one another. No, I'm the leader of the team that deals with you guys now, and I've decided that I can do whatever I want when it comes to all of you. You became the leader? And if you were just to take a look at the size of this company compared to Jarvis, you'd know better than to think you were on the same level as me. No matter what you try and say, Cadillac is seen as the company on top of Jarvis. So all you guys are over there is a contractor to us. I don't believe either one of the companies we work for had that kind of relationship with the other, actually. Hey, you need to be more formal with me. You'd better start thinking of how to talk to me like I'm your boss. Well, anyway, what I'm wanting to talk with you about is related to our work. So can you please stop speaking such nonsense to me? Huh? What did you just say to me? You've always kind of been this way to me, ever since middle school. And not just me, I suppose, but to everyone you're ever around. You forget to think about how others feel about you, and will do anything and everything for yourself without a bother in the world. Back in middle school, you happened to make a lot of trouble for one of the teachers who was pregnant at the time, and got kicked out of her class. And there were plenty of other times there as well where you had to go to detention for being rude and obnoxious to everyone else. You even ended up being suspended that one time for causing a scene in the lunchroom by pushing someone else over while they were carrying your lunch tray. I guess you really never learned that from suspension anyway. So it was probably better to take another approach as trying to make you behave, but anyway, have you still not noticed that your kind of nonchalant behavior about everything is not helpful to those around you? Huh? Who gives a crap about everyone around me? Because I feel that they have a problem, they can bring it up with me. I'm sure back in school that kind of thought process worked out for you. Well, we're adults now working in two very large companies. You contractors and your preaching always takes way too long. I told you that I'm not a contractor to your company. I understand that you and I have history all the way back to middle school, but at the moment, all we are to one another is business partners. Or, well, customers. In other words, I'd like it if things between us remain that way and you stop it with all the horseplay when I come over to the office. Especially right now when both of our companies are starting to make some big decisions between one another and need to be serious. Alrighty then. I'll be more careful around you. Oh, Chris, you've made it. Just like that other man that was working as the manager for relations between my company and yours. You happened to give a good meeting about those plans there. But listen, bud. What the hell do you think you're doing bringing plans up like that to my company when you're just a contractor to us? You trying to make a point there? Ah, I see. I'm betting you thought that to prove that both of our jobs are equal to one another, you decided to bring in those plans and make a whole meeting up about them to show everyone here you're more than a contractor. Well, it's because of thinking like that I'll never be able to take you low-life contractors seriously over here. Alright, this is my chance to make a move. I'm going to help you understand just the position a manager like you is really in, Mr. Contractor. I hope you're looking forward to this, because I sure am. Parker, give me back those plans and proposals. I'm planning to use all of those again for today's meeting. Also, what the heck are you thinking taking that SD card from me that had all those papers downloaded on them for safekeeping? If I don't have any of those by the time of the meeting, I won't be able to have it. Do you have any idea what the heck you're doing right now? Yo, I took a quick read over all those plans and proposals you have here. I don't think any of these will do, to be honest with you. They're being rejected. Huh? This is something I've been wanting to tell you for a while now. For a contractor like you to be bringing proposals like that to a company is a frickin' joke. Some bullcrap like this that's been thought up by a low-life contractor like you is only good for one thing. Fuel for my fire. Haha. Huh? Are you gonna burn all of that? Actually, the fire's already going. Everything's in there. I'm sure you're not gonna be needing this SD card anymore either, right? Well, I just stomped on it for you, so you don't need to answer that. That whole feeling of superiority you had there is all gone now, right? Parker! Now that I'm the new leader for the team dealing with you and that company, I'm going to make sure you all understand just what kind of company you're all working for now. Do you have a single clue what the hell you've just done, Parker? I told you exactly what I've done. I destroyed it all. Because ideas coming from contractors like you mean nothing to me and my team. Nor this whole entire company. I worked very hard to snatch all those papers from you, as well as that SD card today in order to remind you what kind of position you're really in. The leader of that team is still Justin, as I recall. Well, starting today, Justin is no longer leading the team, and in his place, I stand. Well, I was never officially told any sort of news like that from any higher-ups, nor yours. And actually, as we speak, my company is on the line with yours asking who is in charge of that team. Huh? To me, it seems that you've been causing a lot of problems for Justin and the team there. And from today, are you trying to act as though you're in charge now, right? I'm sure you're just doing all that to make me feel worried and upset. Or something needless like that. What are you getting at here? I was just doing my job for this company by making sure idiot contractors like you don't get the wrong idea and think it's okay to be making proposals for this company. If anything, I'd really like a thank you from you right now for helping both companies out. Parker. I had thought you knew about my position in Jarvis, and the relation we have with Cadillac, but I guess you really don't have a single clue. Huh? sure I shouldn't be having to say something like this to you right now. But listen here, Parker. Those plans and proposals that you just burnt up and smashed on the floor happen to not only be thought up by my company. What? Those proposals that were given to us came from your team's leader, Justin, and he had asked for us to brush them up a little here. Also, that by the time we put them into action, there would be no faults anywhere. And as for some final work that was being put into all those proposals and plans, I had created a PowerPoint on that SD card to give at the meeting showcasing what we had done and where we planned to go with everything. Huh? As for today, during that joint meeting we'll be having, there will be both the CEO from Cadillac and the CEO from Jarvis there to see what ideas we have ready. And not just them, but also other customers to both our companies will be there watching. What did you just say? It will only be a matter of time before everyone begins to show up for that meeting. All to see what we've thought up to help both companies work together even closer from here on out. But after what you've done, I'm sure you can guess what'll happen to you now, right? Wait a second. Luckily that SD card and those papers have all been backed up to another hard drive back at Jarvis. So I can go back there to retrieve all that information as long as the meeting has moved to another date, or later this evening. So I'm not so worried about having that meeting or not. What I'm worried about is your behavior, and the actions you took today in the order to try and get me to kneel to you. At this point in time, all of Cadillac is in a panic trying to find out what's happened to you, and what you did with all the proposals we had. Whoa! I'm sure that the smartphone you're texting me with right now is also being blown up by all your coworkers and bosses, right? Do you think it's going to help you in the future to ignore all of them right now? No, wait. I just assumed that after dealing with you, I could get right back to work and talk with them all then. I'd say your best bet now is to start answering to all of them, and come back to the office to answer for what you've done. You really need to be made aware of the severity of all you've just done, and the only way that'll happen is if you come back here and face the consequences. Chris! Do something about all of this for me! What do you want from me? Right now my uncle is completely pissed at me. If things keep escalating like they have been, I might end up getting fired from my job here. That's right. You so happen to be the nephew of one of the directors within Cadillac. And that's the whole reason you were even able to get a job there in the first place, right? So far, your uncle's apologized for all your actions there many times over. Huh? He's apologized for me? Have you finally come to an understanding of the predicament you're in right now? No way! I was finally able to get a decent job at a company like this, and have been racking in even more money than I ever imagined I'd be able to. Because of my connection to my uncle, I was even able to get a raise and everything. And the job has been so simple for me that I barely feel as though I'm working at all when I'm here. I don't want to be thrown out of a job that's as easy as this one. Well, what would it mean to you if that uncle of yours is no longer a director there? What? Due to all the trouble you've caused this time by ruining the meeting we were supposed to have, and almost destroying all the work Jarvis and Cadillac had worked for, your uncle had to really step in and take responsibility for you. Huh? Are you kidding me? And, well, this was the last straw for the company and your uncle, so they terminated him already. One other thing. That leader, Justin, that you've been trying to take the spot of forcefully, happens to be the grandson of your CEO. Are you freaking kidding me? The rest of this is probably things I shouldn't really be talking about with you. But you have to understand that you're acting like a spoiled brat that thinks they can get away with anything within that company. It's not acceptable by any means, right? No. No! This is all a lie. I was just wanting to make the workplace more lively. And that's why I did a bunch of things like that to spice things up a bit. And when I started to work on the team dealing with you and that company, I hated to think that some contractor like you would have the balls to try preaching to me like that. That's not a good way of thinking about Cadillac and Jarvis's partnership. Really shows just how horrible of a person you really are, Parker. What? You have not grown up one bit since we first met back in middle school, and that's just sad. If anything, you've only gone backwards in terms of personal growth, and it's felt like I've been dealing with a preschooler when I'm around you here. What the hell did you say? I'm sorry, but I have a meeting to get to now. Huh? Why do you have to go to a meeting all of a sudden? Well, due to your outburst yesterday, along with your actions, the meeting between both our companies had to be delayed until today. For crying out loud! Don't you dare leave me with no help when I'm about to lose my job! You were the one that ruined the gift your uncle had given you by getting you into that company. Why do I have to be the one blamed for all that? You understand the phrase, you'll get what's coming for you? What? Other than the things I've just said to you, there's nothing else I'd like to talk with you about. I'll be going now. Frick! As you just saw, I was able to hold that meeting with the rest of my group and Cadillac's team, and it all went over really well for everyone. But, while that was taking place, Parker went ahead and did something far worse. It appears that he was really in love with the woman working the front desk of the office building, and he refused to stay home from work while the company performed its investigation into him. He came into the building with a bouquet of roses for her, and he proposed to her in the lobby of the building. He totally had the confidence to think that she'd never say no to him, but she told him a swift no, and he began to throw a fit in the lobby, which ended up with him being taken into custody by police. And with that, the CEO came down to him before the police took him away and told him he was fired. Both of Parker's parents told him to never come around them as they disowned him, and he no longer was able to get into contact with any other members of his family. He also had a restraining order put on him by the girl at the front desk. Parker could no longer handle all the holes that he was continuing to put himself into, and one day he had one last hurrah on the subway drinking loads of alcohol and making a complete mess of himself. He was taken back into custody by police. However, this time he wouldn't be lucky enough to escape the court system. I'm not sure how long he'll be locked up for, but I hope that he keeps acting up in there so that he has to stay longer, as there is no way anyone wants a menace like him back on the streets causing problems for the public.
Adriana, why are you at Dad's funeral?
Huh? What do you mean why I'm at his funeral? Weren't all of Dad's relatives invited to come?
Stop pretending like he was your dad, Adriana. You're pretending like you were his family during yesterday's wake, too. Do you know how annoyed I was at seeing you?
But I'm his daughter, so I wanted to say farewell to him as well.
Huh? It seems like you have some sort of misunderstanding, but it's extremely rude to sit with his family when you're just an adopted child.
What? I know I was only adopted, but he raised me like his own daughter ever since I was a young child. I don't even remember who my real parents were.
It doesn't matter whether he raised you or not when you're not actually related to him by blood. You're not related to me either. I call you my sister just for convenience, but I don't really think you're my sister, alright? You're always just fucking Adriana in my mind. But I'm the daughter of a CEO, so I can't say such things out loud, right? I feel as if I'm being punished whenever I have to call you my sister, but it can't be helped.
Ophelia, why were you always this mean to me?
Why shouldn't I be mean to you? Even though you weren't even Dad's real child, he always treated you better than me, his actual daughter, for some goddamn reason. But just because I call you my sister doesn't mean you can pretend to be his daughter at his funeral. Dad was always nice to you, but I'm not going to be the same. I'm his real daughter, not you. You're basically just a stranger to him, you know?
I'm sorry. I didn't know you felt like that all this time. I guess it must have been difficult seeing your father treat us differently. But still, what you're saying is just going too far. Just because I wasn't related to him by blood doesn't mean that we couldn't have had a meaningful relationship as father and daughter.
Shut it. Just leave the funeral right now. I don't want to hear any of your excuses. Ugh, I always hated how you were like this. Every time I get mad at you, you always pretend like you did nothing wrong and I'm the bad guy. For once, could you just admit you were wrong?
Adriana, are you alright?
Oh, hi, Irvis. It's fine. I just got a little bit wet. It's not like she hurt me or anything.
Someone saw Phila dumping a bucket of water on you and told me about it. Where are you right now?
I'm at the rental clothes store near the funeral.
Oh, so you rented morning clothes to go to the funeral?
Yep. Someone from the shop saw that Philly had dumped a bucket of water on me and brought me here.
I'm glad things seem to be alright. They're gonna give you new clothes, right?
Yeah, thankfully the owner's a kind person. I also thought of borrowing a wig and some glasses.
What? For what would you need a wig and glasses for?
To disguise myself. So I could sit with the rest of the relatives without being noticed.
What? You don't have to hide like that, Adriana. You did nothing wrong. He's your father.
But...
I'll sit next to you the whole time and prevent anyone from doing anything strange.
What? You'll do that for me?
You're my fiancé. I already got permission to sit with your relatives, so it's not gonna be a problem. Even Phila will have no choice but to behave if she's in front of a crowd of people. Don't worry about it. Return to the funeral and say goodbye to your father. Even though you weren't related to him by blood, you were probably closer to him than anyone else in that funeral. Even Phila.
Irvis, I wouldn't know what I would do without you. Thank you. I'll return as soon as I change.
What is your problem? Why is Irvis standing watch next to you the whole time?
Hello, Philia. I know you were mad at me, but dumping a bucket of water on my head like that was rude. I would have been glad to settle our differences, but you didn't want to talk to me.
This again. I hate how you always make me seem like the bad guy. You don't seem to understand yet. You're not supposed to be at this funeral. Also, Irvis is supposed to be my fiancé, not yours.
Huh? What does Irvis have to do with this? And what do you mean he's supposed to be your fiancé?
I mean, shouldn't a person who's going to inherit father's company marry the CEO's only daughter? Mom said that as well. And besides, he's too good for you anyways.
Are you trying to say that it's already decided that Irvis is going to be the next CEO? Where'd you get that information?
I mean, isn't it obvious? For some unknown reason, he's engaged to you, who isn't actually related to father, but it was supposed to be me, you know? This is a good opportunity, so I'll be taking Irvis from you, okay?
That has nothing to do with whether Irvis is going to be the next CEO. What you're saying doesn't make any sense, Philia.
You're so frustrating to talk to. You're going to leave this funeral and Irvis is going to be mine, period. Oh, I almost forgot. There's something Mom wants to tell you. Don't think that a stranger has a right to receive an inheritance, she said.
Sorry, but I'm not going to leave the funeral, and I'm not going to give you Irvis as well. And what's that about the inheritance? Is she telling me to let go of my portion of the inheritance when he was my father as well?
Fine. Stay at the funeral if you want. Just know that you aren't welcomed here. Oh, and as for Irvis, I'll take care of him myself later. And yes, that's what Mom is saying. I agree with her, by the way. Why should a complete stranger inherit stuff from my dad, who was a CEO? He probably has a fortune waiting for me.
I don't think this is something we should be talking about the day of the funeral. It's impolite. Dad's will's going to be released by a lawyer after the memorial service takes place, right? The company can't just wait until it's released. So it seems that they're holding meetings to decide who the next CEO is going to be. So I think it's best not to say or do anything stupid for now.
I didn't quite get what you said, but I'm going to take Irvis from you, alright? Irvis himself will probably choose me, the CEO's real daughter, over a complete stranger like you, if he's going to go after the position of CEO.
Well, I guess we are just strangers to each other. I can understand why you don't like me, but it's not an excuse to treat me the way you're currently treating me.
Finally, you understand. It's fine with me, whatever you think, as long as you get out of my life. Looks like you messed up, Adriana. Irvis, the next CEO of Dad's company, is going to be mine now. Too bad, I guess.
But it was already decided before Dad passed away that Irvis wouldn't be the next CEO.
Huh? What are you talking about? What do you mean he's not going to be the next CEO? Hi, Irvis. I'm your new fiance from now on, so I hope we can get along.
Huh? What are you talking about, Filler? My fiance isn't you, but Adriana, your sister?
Oh, that's been canceled.
Huh? Canceled? What do you mean?
Dad messed up a bit, so you for some reason got engaged to Adriana, but in reality, you're supposed to marry me, not her. Which is why I'm gonna fix things now that Dad is gone.
My marriage with Adriana has nothing to do with the company's interest, though.
But just a little bit longer and I'll get my hands on Dad's inheritance. If you don't marry me, then the position of CEO is gonna be harder to obtain, you know?
I don't quite follow.
What?
It doesn't matter what you say, my fiance is Adriana. I have no intention of getting married to any other woman. Goodbye.
What's the meaning of this? Why are you the next CEO? This has got to be some sort of mistake. What dirty trick did you use to make this happen?
Philia, it looks like you're misunderstanding.
What? How am I misunderstanding?
I'll try to explain to you what happened, alright?
Fine, explain it then.
Well, we first need to talk about why your father adopted me.
It's because Mom and Dad couldn't quite bear a child, right? But I was miraculously born after they adopted you.
It's true that they couldn't bear a child before they adopted me, but everything else is wrong.
Huh?
They didn't tell me how much you knew, but it seems that I'm Dad's biological nephew.
What? His nephew?
Yes, I'm his sister's daughter. His sister and her husband, meeting my real parents, suddenly passed away after getting into an accident. So your father took custody of me and adopted me as his daughter. That's what I heard.
Oh, is that so? So does that mean we're cousins?
Yes. About the next CEO of the company then. Dad's company evaluates people entirely on their skill. It's just a coincidence that the next CEO, me, also happened to be related to the previous CEO. I was one of the employees who were chosen as candidates for the next CEO. And luckily, they noticed my hard work and chose me.
So what about Irvis?
I've been going out with him since I was in the second year of high school. I'm only marrying him because I want to. It has nothing to do with the company.
No way, but I heard that he was competent at his job. He was at least chosen as one of the candidates for the next CEO, right?
I didn't know you had that wrong as well. Irvis isn't even an employee at our company. Where did you even get that information?
Seriously? But I always thought that Dad had brought the two of you together since he was planning to make Irvis the next CEO.
What? You read way too many short stories, Philia. Well, do you understand the situation now? There's a lot of things I need to learn if I'm going to be the next CEO, so I'm quite busy. Bye.
This can't be true. This is completely different to what I thought was happening. Why did I get everything so wrong? Why? Why is Dad's will like this? You inherit all of Dad's property, and me and Mom just get a few gifts.
It's just as the will says. Apparently you're Dad's child legally, but your father was actually a different man, and you were only born because Mom cheated on Dad. I was surprised when I saw this on the will, too. It looks like Dad even has proof that you aren't his real daughter, so there can't be a mistake.
What?
I'm sure Dad was conflicted by this fact all this time. He probably could have divorced Mom whenever he wanted to with the proof that she cheated on him. He could have even threw you away with her since you weren't his actual child.
Huh? So after all this time, you were the one who's related to Dad and not me? Why didn't he tell me about this sooner?
Dad wasn't the type of person to discriminate between us just because of the conditions surrounding our birth. He probably didn't tell us to keep the family safe. Maybe he knew that he and Mother would have gotten divorced. This proves that he did in fact care for you as well, Philia. Because if he hadn't, he would have just left the family fall apart and leave you and your mother to your own devices. You were just too blinded by jealousy to see that he cared for you as much as he did as me. I think what's written on his will is his final decision after years of inner torment, so I'm gonna do as Dad's will says. Goodbye for now, Philia. I hope that one day we can come to terms with each other and be the siblings that we always were.
But if he cared for me as much as he cared for you, then why did he give you more inheritance? I want that money as well. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I was supposed to get rich after Dad died. Irvis, marry me instead of Adriana.
Huh? Phila? What in the world are you talking about? Why should I marry you?
You see, I was such an unlucky child all this time.
Oh, you mean how you ruined your father's actual child? I guess it's a bit ironic how you kicked Adriana out of her father's funeral because she wasn't actually related to him, when in reality, you were the one who wasn't related to your father, and she was.
Yes, I never wanted this to happen. And I can't even receive an inheritance because of Adriana.
What does Adriana have to do with this? Your father simply gave Adriana more money than you and your mother, simply because he thought Adriana would make better use of it, I think. I doubt he was petty enough to give Adriana more money just because he liked her more. It simply isn't good parenting. You and your mother are housewives without a job, right? But Adriana has a promising career. In fact, she's now the CEO of her father's company. And so that's probably why he gave her the money.
But if Adriana never existed, then at least I would have been Dad's only legal child, and me and Mom would have been able to receive an inheritance. Isn't that so?
Philia, do you realize that you're being extremely rude to Adriana?
What? Who cares if I was being a bit rude? I was only telling her the truth. She was trying to lay claim to Dad's inheritance even though she was just a stranger to him. That's why I told her to get out of my sight.
It's true that the business of inheritances can be delayed and people need to handle them logically. But after your father died, while everyone else was quietly mourning your dad with whatever thoughts they might have had for him, the sight of you and your mother looking so excited for the inheritance was disturbing, simply put. I'm not surprised your dad chose to give his inheritance mainly to Adriana. With that personality of yours, I'm actually surprised he didn't divorce your mother and let go of you sooner. It just goes to show how kind of a man he was.
It's not like that. Dad always treated Adriana better than me, and now I know why. It's because I wasn't actually his real child, and Adriana was his nephew all along. And I never intended for it to seem like I wasn't sad about my dad's death and only cared about the inheritance, Irvis. I was sad about Dad's death just like everyone else. You just didn't notice it. And what do you mean, that personality of yours? I'm a much better person than Adriana. She just pretends to be the saint when in reality, she just does it to make people like her. And me and Mom are the only person who realize it.
I knew that's what she would say. It's not like your dad ever told me anything, but I don't think that he treated Adriana better than you simply because you were the child of another man. And Adriana was his nephew. Adriana's father was the kind of person that judged someone entirely on who they are as a person. You can see it in how he runs his company, where employees are evaluated entirely on their scale, right? This means that your father was more fond of Adriana than you simply because he liked her better as a person. Although, I will admit that a father treating their children with different levels of love is a bit unfair, and I'll forgive you a little bit for that. But saying that you never intended for it to seem like you weren't sad about your dad's death and that you only cared about the inheritance is actually just as bad as saying that you did intend for it to look like that. Because now you're just someone that has no regard for manners and what other people think.
Irvis, don't say things like that. It wasn't my fault that I wasn't actually my father's child and that Adriana was his niece. I didn't ask for any of this to happen. Please, I have no one else to depend on. Why don't you want to marry me?
I feel bad for your situation, but sorry. I'm not gonna marry you no matter how much I pity you. Because I love Adriana and no other woman. Goodbye, Philia. I hope that you someday find happiness of your own.
Dad was the owner of the house Philly and her mother lived in, but it was now my house after the inheritance. It seems the two were too proud to live in a house owned by me, so they used the little money they received as a gift from Dad to find an apartment. Actually, the gift money they received was only little compared to the rest of the inheritance, but it was still quite a large sum of money. But for some reason, the two of them decided that these were the funds they needed to start gambling, even though they needed that money to get by until they could start providing for themselves. Even though they intended to earn some easy money by winning, they eventually lost all of it. Now the two of them support themselves by working at a job that comes with housing. But since the two of them have never worked a day in their lives, they frequently make mistakes and get scolded by the other employees. The two now live in poverty and constantly have fights, it seems. Me and Irvis, on the other hand, got married a few months after the memorial service took place, which is also when I started to be more comfortable with my new position as the CEO. We decided to find a new house as a way of putting the past behind and starting anew, and I decided to sell the house I inherited from Dad. I kind of feel bad for Philia. After all, she thought that she was her dad's real child her whole life. But to be honest, I don't think Dad was the kind of person to judge a person based on something like that. So I also feel that what happened to her was ultimately her own doing.